There we go. That's better. There we go. It's still a little crooked. It's still a little crooked. And I need to mute this. All right, but it's fine. We'll leave it like this. I'm trying to start filming this with the opposite camera, with the front camera instead of the back camera, so the quality can look better. The problem is that I don't think I got it even with the front camera. But it's fine. We'll work on that a different time. We are live from Occupy City Hall in Rockford, Illinois. I don't know why I got these headphones on. This shit ain't even plugged up. The headphones got a short in them. Let's take this off. We're live from Occupy City Hall in Rockford, Illinois. My name is Leslie Rolfe. I'm a member of the May 30th Alliance. The May 30th Alliance is a direct action organization located in Rockford, Illinois, dedicated to the struggle to end police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice in Winnebago County. The May 30th Alliance came out to the City Hall in Rockford, Illinois on October 3rd, 2020, after on October 2nd, 2020, Tyrus Jones, an unarmed black man, was shot by the Rockford Police Department as he was running away. Our occupation continued through the end of November 2020 when Tyrus Jones, the man who attempted to murder Tyrus Jones, would be found to be justified in his actions and would return to the Rockford Police Department force. Our occupation will continue through January 5th, 2021, after Denzel Duvant, an unarmed black man, will be assaulted at the hands of the Rockford Police Department. One of the officers involved in the assault of Denzel Duvant would be Officer Dominic McNeese, who months earlier had attempted to murder Tyrus Jones and had been found justified and sent back to work. Our occupation will continue through April 10th, 2021, when Faustin Guaitigo will be murdered by Winnebago County Sheriff Deputy Joseph Broulard. Our occupation will continue through April 11th, 2021, when no more than 24 hours later, Jose Gonzalez Jr., a 19-year-old, will be shot while running away by the Rockford Police Department, namely by Officer Owen McGinnis. Our occupation will continue through April 25th, 2021, when Raymond Jackson would die after a high-speed pursuit took place in the streets of Rockford, Illinois by the Rockford Police Department, and the car that was being chased by the Rockford Police Department crashed into the car being driven by Raymond Jackson, killing Raymond Jackson and critically injuring two children that were in the car with Raymond Jackson. So what we want to say is justice for Raymond Jackson, justice for Tyrus Jones, justice for Denzel Duvant, justice for Jose Gonzalez Jr., and justice for Faustin Guaitigo. With the realization that there may be people who have understanding and empathy for Tyrus Jones and do not have that understanding and empathy for Jose Gonzalez Jr. There may be people who have understanding and empathy for Jose Gonzalez Jr. may not have it for Denzel Duvant, and so on and so forth. And so it becomes our responsibility at the point in which understanding and empathy has resonated for us to extrapolate out how each incident of police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice directly and indirectly affects every other incident of police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice, and how each one of us as members of this community are directly and indirectly affected by police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice. And so I have titled this live from Occupy City Hall, Justin Fern, Urban Equity, and RPD officer. I think I put fired. That was I put RPD officer arrested. I was going to say, because if I put fired, that would be incorrect. RPD officer arrested. So what we'll start with is Justin Fern. So for those who may not know, Justin Fern is the founder and the president of Urban Equity Property. What's up with it? Urban Equity Property owns the majority of the buildings that you see downtown and find downtown. Urban Equity Properties owns a vast amount of property in this city in general. And Urban Equity owns the building that is directly across from City Hall. That was once where the Chase Bank was located at, and now has different businesses all through the building. However, the reason that I'm bringing Justin Fern up is because of an interaction that we had yesterday, which is really a carryover from multiple interactions which we have had since the occupation at City Hall has began. So to make sure I can give an accurate representation of the events that took place yesterday, I will start us back a little bit further with with our first interactions as an organization with Justin Fern and with Urban Equity Properties. There is an outlet on the Chase Bank Center there were multiple outlets on the Chase Bank Center. When we first came out here for the occupation of City Hall, we would use those outlets to charge phones. Had a microwave, used the outlet for microwave. Air fryer, used the outlet for air fryer. Litany of things that electricity can be used for, we used the outlets for. A heater, I had a space heater I would use sometimes over there while I was charging things. And so also when it has snowed and when it has rained, we have used the overhang that connects that building, the building that the Chase Bank used to be in, to the building that Image was once in. And there's an overhang over there that gives you some shelter from rain and snow and things of that nature. And so that has been the dynamic of our interactions with this building that is owned by Urban Equity, using electricity and using shelter. So for the first months or so that we were out here, there was no contentious interactions between us and Urban Equity or us and Justin Fern. The first interaction that I ever had with Justin Fern, before I even knew who he was, he pulled up in his Range Rover. I was using the electrical outlet, and while I was using the electrical outlet, he pulled up and he said, you're using my electricity. And when he said it, I knew obviously that he must be the person who owned the building. At the time, the Chase Bank was no longer there. And also, you can infer certain things about the character of people and the type of people you are dealing with based off the first things that they say to you. And so I knew the type of person I was dealing with when it was not a hello or what's up or how are you doing, and it was him pulling up in his Range Rover and simply stating, you're using my electricity. And so my response to him was, is this your building? And he said, yeah, I own this building. And he said, but it's okay, it's fine. You can go ahead and use the electricity. I'm okay with you using it. And then, he goes and he drives off. And then there was a time when we were out here with Justin Fern, came and he dropped off, motorcycle. I can't overtalk the motorcycle. There was a time when Justin Fern came out here and he dropped some snacks off. Yeah, appreciate it. He came and he dropped some snacks off. I can't remember what it was specifically, but he came, dropped some snacks off while we were in the front of City Hall. And in the midst of this happening, it should be pointed out that there was probably 8 outlets outside this building that the Chase Bank used to be inside of. And then as time would pass, each one of these outlets would be taken away, basically, to the point where there would only be one outlet left, which is not a complaint or anything like that. I'm just stating facts of what's happened. And so these outlets will be disappearing as we still had what I would consider a civil relationship with Justin Fern. And so there would be a day during April when we were doing our ongoing teaching, the ongoing teaching at Say Their Name Square that we had and we hosted, where we read a different book every day for 24 hours with the hopes of completing the book. And one of the things that happened maybe in the second week of the ongoing teaching at Say Their Name Square was it began to rain. It was the spring, so spring showers came. What we did in an effort to avoid being trying to read in the rain and water falling on book pages and destroying the books and the camera or electronics being destroyed was we moved to underneath the old Chase Bank building in the front. It's a little overhang that's in the front that sort of was blocking us from some rain. A side of the table would get wet in the rain, but you were able to read without the book being destroyed and without the electronics being destroyed. We did that for a portion of a day, and one of the things that happened was somebody else who worked at Urban Equities, who we have continued to have a civil relationship with. They came out and they said to us that we couldn't be right there doing what we were doing. Our statement was we was in a public spot. It's still a public sidewalk. And they were saying that we're getting complaints for some of the people who work inside of this building that the Chase Bank used to be inside of, about feeling uncomfortable walking past us while we were filming and reading. And this interaction with this person from Urban Equity would lead to Justin being called and Justin coming down here. And this would be my personal first contentious or close to contentious interaction with Justin Fern. He would come down upset because we were using the overpass or upset because we were near his property. Again, it should be pointed out that we were on the public sidewalk. It was just very close to the property. I think we had like some tripod or a few things leaned against the wall. One of the things he was saying is we can't have nothing leaned against the wall or whatever. However, Justin would come down. We would have a conversation. The conversation would end in a compromise where we would move somewhere that was not infiltrating, or that was not making people who were working inside of the building uncomfortable to come in and out of the building. So we would have a compromise. It would not be no type of big verbal altercation or blow up. Justin will go on about his day. We were going on about our day. We will continue with the occupation at City Hall. Occupation at City Hall. We will continue with the ongoing teaching to say their name square. And when we needed to, when it would rain, we would find a compromising position that was not making the people working inside of there feel uncomfortable. But that we could also use, so that way we were able to accomplish what we were out here for. One of the things I do want to point out is that in this interaction with him, he would again bring up the fact that I was using his electricity. We were using his electricity because I was still plugging up, and this is a primarily me thing, plugging up things in the back of, in the last outlet that was left, plugging up portable chargers. The air fryer and the microwave was going at this point, so he's plugging up portable charger in the space heaters, the springtime. So basically, the only thing I was using to plug up was portable chargers, and then we had got an organizational laptop. I was using the organization's laptop and plugging that up in the back. And so he would point out, haven't I been good to you? I'm still letting you use the electric that's back here, and so I would say, I appreciate you letting us use the electric that's back here, but that's secondary to what we're doing with the teaching or whatever. So that was just a point that I think is important to point out, this idea of this electrical outlet continuing to be brought up, and the idea of this entitlement of electricity that this man has. And so the ongoing teaching at the name square would go on, and time would pass, and there would be about a month or so where there would be no contentious interactions with Justin, Fern, or Urban Equity. And then what would be the next interaction that would happen between Urban Equity or Justin, Fern, and ourselves would be after the arrest from the inauguration of the Alder people. I'm not sure, again, this is depending on how much you've kept up with all the things that are going on with the occupation at City Hall will determine how much you know about some of these things. Hold on, let this car go by. But for those who may not know, there was an inauguration of the Alder people who were just voted in to office that took place at City Hall. Me and Ari and myself protested that inauguration. We protested it because the people running for office did not run on a platform speaking about police terrorism, mass incarceration, or racial injustice, which are the primary issues in our society right now. They did not speak on Tyrus Jones being shot, or Denzel Duvant being beat, or Jose Gonzalez Jr. being shot, or Faustin Guaitico being murdered, which were all things that had happened at the point in which they were sworn in. And also because the mayor was being sworn in again, and the mayor had been somebody who has been unwilling to say the names of these victims. Bill Rose was being sworn in again, and Bill Rose is somebody who has tried to co-opt the movement for Black Lives in an effort to further his political standing. And so these were all people that we felt for one reason or another deserved to be protested and did not deserve to have a peaceful inauguration. So after we protested this inauguration, only thing that we had was signs and music. The city of Rockford would go around and would ask people who were at the inauguration to basically say that they felt uncomfortable or felt disturbed, so that way they could put out a warrant and have me and Ari arrested for protesting this inauguration. And so after this warrant would go out, me and Ari would both be arrested on a Tuesday. When I would come out of jail, I would begin chalking the whole area of downtown. Every sidewalk that was available was getting chalked. I think we went from here to maybe close to the area of Jimmy John's, both on the side of the street that City Hall is on and the side of the street that Altamore, Rockford Orthopedic, and Woodfire and those things are on. However, because of the fact that I was continuing to use the electricity that was on the outlet in the image building, and because of the fact that we had a turbulent relationship with Justin Fern and Urban Equity up to this point, I consciously did not put any chalk on the area where the old Chase Bank building was. So that area where we were using the outlet still was left unmarked, unchalked. However, everything else was free game and everything else was chalked, and we left messages about police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice as we have regularly. Those messages included, but were not limited to, fuck the police, fuck Tom McNamara. Tom McNamara is a racist. The city of Rockford has blood on their hands. They can't kill us all. I don't think we was using the whole world is watching at this point. Fuck racist. RPD equals KKK. I think you get the gist. So that was, anybody including but not limited to. So one of the things that has been a regularity for us is that we have never I don't try to censor anything anybody else writes in chalk. Nobody has ever tried to censor anything that I personally write in chalk. We try to make sure that it is only people who are ideologically aligned with us that are participating in the chalk writing. But part of that, making sure that it is people who are ideologically aligned, is giving people the freedom to express their emotions and their beliefs and their ideologies in a manner that is that best suits them. So what's up? Hey, you know it. Have a good night. And so again, so within those things, we have regularly had people be bothered and upset because they do not like the language that is being used. They do not like the words that are being used. And again, I find that to be an excuse people use when in truth they don't like what the message is about, when in truth they don't like who the messengers are, and it's less about the language, and the language is just the low-hanging fruit that they can grasp onto. These are the same people who will take their children to see Avengers movies, people cussing Avengers movies, that'll listen to music in the car with their kids where there's cussing, that will cuss when in arguments with their spouse in front of their children, that will cuss if their children have bad grades, that will cuss in front of their children if they stub their toe. But when it comes to issues of human rights and issues about literally life and death issues, they feel that language should be censored. And again, these are people who we have encountered since the beginning of this, and these are people who I have not yet heard one argument that is substantial enough to question or to make me waver on the language that I use, or on my opinion on the language that other people use. And so it was cuss words written in the chalk that was in these different areas. The city would come and wash the chalk away that was on this side, and then someone different would come and wash the chalk away on the opposite side of the street. I don't know if the city called somebody specifically to have them wash the chalk away on the other side of the street, or if this was, Urban Equities who called and Justin who called to have somebody, what's up, man? You have a good evening. Who called to have these things removed and washed off. What's up? Y'all have a good evening. What's up? Have a good evening, Scott. That's a story for a different day. But anyways, so people would come, wash the chalk off. The city would wash the chalk off on this side. Somebody different would wash the chalk off on the other side. All black men would be basically washing off chalk messages that was speaking towards their specific plight. We never found out whether Urban Equities called and hired these people or the city of Rockford called and hired these people. But either way it goes, all the chalk would get washed away and would be gone. And then maybe probably 2 days later, on a Friday, I would be sleeping in a chair in front of here, be in the middle of the daytime. The middle of the day feels like a lot safer time to sleep. So it's the middle of the day, I would be sleeping. Terry would be writing in chalk as usual in the area. And as she was writing in chalk, Justin Fern would walk up to him, and him and Justin would have a disagreement. And in the midst of him and Justin having this disagreement, Justin would make his way from arguing with Terry to come to the chair that I was at in an effort to, it's a podcast sometimes. So we're Facebook Live. Have a good night. And so Justin would walk past Terry, come and wake me up. One of the things Terry's very adamant about is not wanting people to wake me up when I'm sleeping. I sleep very sporadically out here, and so he was safeguarding my sleep schedule, which I appreciate. But again, I wasn't, Justin would wake me up, and then me and Justin would proceed to have a conversation. Justin would begin this conversation like a mob boss, coming down off of his ivory tower to deliver some type of message to a rival gang or a rival mafia family or something like that. And he would be yelling. He was yelling about cussing, the cuss words being written in chalk, and how it's disrespectful. And he would go into this diatribe about how his wife was here with their kid, and their kid seen "fuck the police" or some word with a cuss word, and the kid had never heard the word or seen the word before. And then they had to explain to the kid what the word meant, and so I would say to him that that's what the purpose of this is for. I have a 10-year-old son. Do I want my 10-year-old son running around cussing everybody out? No, I don't want my 10-year-old son running around and cussing everybody out. But if there is a message that is being delivered, and someone is just happening to use cuss words to deliver the message, if it is a message that is of an importance, I'm not going to try to censor my child from receiving that message because of the language, especially if the language is suitable for what it is that the message is. One of the things I said to Justin was that the first time I seen Denzel Duvant, who we have a picture of on a trash can, multiple trash cans, who we've had pictures of at multiple rallies and demonstrations and protests, pictures of that you can be found online. The first words I ever heard out the mouth of Denzel Duvant were, "Judge, they beat the fuck out of me." He did not say, "Judge, they beat the F out of me." "Judge, they beat the freak out of me." "Judge, they beat me up really bad." He said, "Judge, they beat the fuck out of me." When I have encountered loved ones and family members of people who have been brutalized by the police and the extent of time in which I have been involved in this struggle in this city, they have never come off to me as trying to edit their language or make sure they don't say any cuss words or make sure that they are saying things that are perceived to be respectable or the right etiquette or anything like that. They have been raw with their emotions, and the rawness in their emotions is what gives credence to the truth that they have experienced. And so I feel it would be disingenuous if we, as organizers and as activists and as protesters or whatever words would be attached to what it is that we are doing, if we did this work and we tried to refrain from cussing because we thought that people would be offended by it, even though the people who are victimized and who have felt these issues cuss when they express their feelings about them. I think one of the things that has happened with struggles in the past is that people have gone so far out of their way to make sure that their struggle is respectable to people, or they're going so far out the way to make sure that the people involved in the struggle are deemed to be respectable to people, as opposed to putting the ideologies and the issues at the forefront. And that is what happens when you write "fuck the police." You understand that there may be somebody seeing you write "fuck the police" who has an issue with you because of what it is that you are writing before they ever get to the point of taking time to learn about the issues with police terrorism. But you understand that you force them to pick a side. You force them to have some type of standing, to have some type of belief, and then it's the work of continuing the issue, it's the work of articulating the issue, and it's also the work of other people who care about these issues to take what you have begun and further it. And so we're not out here writing these messages down in chalk with a belief that the one chalk message that says "fuck the police" will win somebody over or change somebody's ideology, but it will challenge their beliefs and challenge their ideologies. And challenging something means that if you want to challenge something that is deeply rooted and is a deep part of the fabric of the society, it's going to take something. It's going to take a lot to do that. It's going to take something with gravity to do that. And fuck has that gravity. All cops are bastards has that gravity. A litany list of these sayings and phrases and things like that that involve what people will consider to be perverse language or whatever. They carry that gravity. So that was what I explained to him when he came to me on this day, and he gave me the argument about being upset about cuss words, about his child seeing the cuss words, and all of that. And so one of the things he said to me as I was trying to explain this to him, again, I wanted certain things that have been said that I want to make sure I reiterate them being said, because it goes to paint a portrait of the character of the individual we are dealing with, and the ideology of the individual, which may be the ideology of the organization that he has founded and ran as well, or business he has founded and ran as well. He said to me, you think that the mayor and the city's trying to get you out of here? You haven't seen anything. I'll spend $1 million to get you guys out of here. And again, I said, go ahead, spend $1 million. You can. That don't mean nothing to me. These threats, these open threats, don't mean anything to me. If that's how you want to spend your money, go ahead. And he's continuing to go on, and eventually, by the time we get to the end of the conversation, he has his emotions have calmed down some, and he's not as frantic as he was when he came down here. And he leaves, goes on. I continue. I go back to sleep in my chair. Go back to continuing my dream. Terry continue to write with chalk, and I forget all about the shit. Days would pass where he drives by this area all the time. I would see him before he would drive by in his Range Rover, and he does his little Richard Nixon peace symbol. He'd always peace symbol on his car or whatever. And then after this interaction, he'd drive by and eyes straight forward, trying to make sure he doesn't look over, which is completely fine with me. The peace symbol was really awkward and uncomfortable to me. I didn't really know how to respond to that. I'm not experiencing a lot of peace in my life, so it's hard to respond when somebody gives you the Richard Nixon peace symbol. So that would become the interactions and the manner of our relationship after this. I would continue. It's one outlet in the back. I continue to plug things up in the back, charge phones, charge portable chargers, charge the laptop. We continue to leave messages around downtown, and we would continue to consciously not put a plethora, most of the times really any chalk in front of the building where the Chase Bank was at, again, because of this outlet, because of the compromise for the outlet. Again, I always make the statement that politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed, and that everything in your life is a political decision. Everything in your life is political. It's just about whose political ends does it serve. And so it was politically motivated to not put chalk by where the Chase Bank was at. It was politically motivated because I continue to need the outlet and the electricity, and continue to need the overhang when it snows and when it rains. And so with understanding the type of temperament of the person who owns this property, it became more advantageous politically to not leave messages in that area. So last night, so fast forwarded to last night, again, it's important to point out that it's been months. That interaction that I just spoke to you about between me and him and Terry took place in April, the end of April, beginning of May, beginning of May. Either way, months, different season, almost 2 different seasons ago. Last night I would have some chargers plugged up in the back of the Chase Bank building, the back of the old Chase Bank building as usual. I actually had my laptop, our laptop, the organization's laptop. Plugged up in the back of the Chase Bank building. I had 2 chargers in my hand. I was getting ready to go plug the chargers up in the back of the Chase Bank building as well. And as I was doing so, I would see, as I was walking to the back, I would see the Range Rover sort of parked in the back of the parking lot, and I would also see a figure walking up holding the laptop. And so at that point, I figured that this was Justin saying that can't use his electricity no more. I didn't know what the reasons was, but it was something that I was completely prepared to happen at some point in time. It was not a surprise that this had happened. This is what, when I made the political decision to balance out his dealing with this man's temperament, and the disadvantages of basically enabling this man's childish temperament, and the benefits that we got from things being plugged up and the electricity and the charging and of electronics and the overhang for shelter and all of that. And the pros for the overhang and the pros for the charging outweighed, in my opinion, the cons to enabling this narcissist. So on last night, he would come down here and let this motorcycle go by. Last night he would come by, and the rubber had met the road, and we had came to what was an inevitable point in the road where he was no longer allowing us to use the electricity. I figured that they would just get rid of the power like they had with all the other outlets, or shut the power off like they have with all the other outlets, which I'm sure he's in the process of doing now. So I came and I went to go get the laptop from him. I was like, what's up? And he was like, you're using my electricity. You're using my power. You didn't apologize to me. You need to apologize to me. And when he said it, I didn't know what he was talking about. And one of the things that has been very common in this is white people wanting apologies. So I was trying to figure out what thing could have happened. What thing could have happened recently that he may want an apology for. And so I asked him, I was like, what are you talking about? What do I owe you an apology for? And he was like, for disrespecting me. And I was like, me and you have had civil conversations. We haven't had any type of, I haven't disrespected you in any type of a way. And then he was like, and it's like he had like a moment where he like racked his mind to try to remember things or remember what I was talking about, or to try to find some other thing he could be upset about, since this specific thing wasn't being tangible or wasn't, making any sense. It wasn't connecting with me. And so he said, well, your guy disrespected me. Your guy needs to apologize to me. And when he said that, my first thought was, who the fuck are you talking about? And then within moments, I remember he must be talking about Terry, this event that happened months ago. Again, it's important to remember this guy is out here at 9 o'clock at night. A guy that I would assume is a millionaire, if not a millionaire, very close to a millionaire, out 9 o'clock at night, buttoned up a white shirt on that probably costs $500, some slacks on that probably costs $500, shoes, $500,000, $600,000 shoes. This man who has to be packed from ass crack in the morning to ass crack at night with meetings and boardroom meetings about different things, has found the time in his busy day and in his busy schedule to come down here at 9 o'clock at night to demand an apology from something that happened months ago, and he's asking for this apology. He asking for this apology from somebody other than who he believes is the person who should give the apology. And so I say to him, you want an apology from Terry? I'm not telling no another man to give you no apology. And he not going to apologize to you. Terry ain't apologizing to nobody for shit. Terry not making no decisions or saying nothing that he don't 100% believe and stand on after he done said it and did it. So you have a better luck getting me to get vitiligo and be out here white than you gonna have and getting Terry to get an apology. It's not happening. It goes against the nature of who Terry is, the same way whitewashing my skin will go against the nature of who I am. And so I tell him, you're not getting no apology from Terry, and I'm not finna have no other man come and tell no other man to give you an apology. Millionaire? Well beyond just, okay, so much more than just a millionaire coming down 9 o'clock at night to deliver this message, to not use his electricity. So I tell him, I can't have no help with you. I'm not going to be an ambassador. I'm not the apology ambassador. And so he says, well, then you can't use my electricity no more. And you know what? You're on my property. I have you arrested for criminal trespass on my property. And so I tell him, I don't give a fuck. Call the police. Fuck your property. I don't give no fuck about you calling the police for no criminal trespass. And then he was like, and I'll have you arrested for theft, for stealing the electricity. And I was like, go ahead, call the police. I don't care. None of this mean nothing to me. And I'd say to him, that's not gonna do nothing to me. I don't care about using your electricity. I don't care about your property. But you calling the police is not a threat that's gonna scare me. And at this point, Antar was here, and so Antar was walked up near the area to just listen in on what was going on, to make sure we have had a lot of crazy shit happen, to make sure that this crazy ass man didn't do nothing didn't do anything crazier than the theatrics that he was already putting on. And then he goes on to say, as Antar's walking up, he says, "How many times have you been arrested? How many times you've been arrested now?" I don't know how many times I've been arrested. We in double digits at this point. But my opinion, what I got from that is basically him saying that all he gotta do is call the police and I'll be arrested. This is the case. This is a case study on weaponizing the police. He understood exactly what he was saying when he was talking about calling the police and having us be arrested. And because he has seen, and this gets us back into a climate being created. Shout out to Antar for being found not guilty on the only charge against a protester that has ever went to trial. Not guilty. This is what happens when a climate is created of white people weaponizing the police, of institutions weaponizing the police, and people being arrested for things for crimes they have not committed, for people being arrested just because somebody wants them to be arrested. It goes to other people feeling like that's what they can do. That they can just call the police and say that they're arguing with the protesters, or that they're downtown at City Hall and they're upset, bothered by something. Appreciate it, man, for real. Appreciate you, man. Take it easy. That he's upset and bothered by something, and then they can have us arrested, and the police can come and arrest us, and that's it. And so at this point, Antar had walked up. He said this shit about how many times had I been arrested, and then he stops talking to me basically like mid-sentence and walks all the way up to Antar, almost getting into Antar's face. It's a very small amount of space separating them. If one of them had COVID, the other one would have COVID after this shit, because how close the closeness and proximity that he got to him. And he's talking to Antar about you can't be on this property. This is my property. I have you arrested for criminal trespass. And then he says to Antar, "Smile, you're on camera," and points up to some imaginary cameras. I done went back since this happened, and look, I don't see the cameras that he got over there, and I don't even think they got no I'm sure they have cameras in the building. What up? Ooh, you ran that light, be careful. I'm sure they do have cameras in the building. I don't know what camera he was pointing to at this time. It sort of felt like an intimidation tactic or something he was doing to try to make people scared to walk back there and plug shit back in. But so he would have this back and forth with Antar, and then me, him, and Antar would basically all be in a triple, well, not a triple threat match. I guess it'd be a handicap match, a handicap verbal altercation match, where me and Antar was on one side and racist multimillionaire Justin Fern was on another side. And so he would make the threat to call the police a few times before eventually, just mid-sentence, basically getting in his car, walking off, getting in his car, and driving off and leaving. And one of the things I told him before he drove off and left, I was like, I'm putting chalk. It's going to be chalk all in the front of this sidewalk when you leave. He was real, and he kept real adamant with this. This is another one of the things he said. I'll be trying to remember some of these fucking lines that people be having. Some of these lines are so fucking ludicrous that they're hilarious. But he says to me, he is like, you've been out here for a year and a half and you haven't fixed anything. Crime stats are still up. Crime rates are still up. And I said to him, I'm not out here fighting crime. That's not what the fuck I'm out here doing. The crime rates don't got no type of barometer on whether the things that we doing out here is successful or not. And that's the reason that they have these quarterly crime statistics that come out, is for people who are like Justin Fern to be able to believe that either the police are doing good when crime statistics are going down, or that black people are out of hand when crime statistics are going up. And that's the only thing that these things are for, because history has shown that crime stats have never had any direct correlation to the amount of police, to the amount of people in jail, or to anything with the criminal justice system. There have been ebbs and flows that are not tied to any of those things. But again, this is the type of deranged thought that goes into white privilege. But so anyways, he would go get in his car, he would leave, drive off. I would go do a live, small 2-3 minute live, where I said that I was gonna be putting chalk on chalk on the area in front of the Image building, or in front of the old Chase Bank building. And so that's what we'll do. I'll put chalk all through the front of his shit. In the morning, he would come, have one of his black employees wash the chalk off. But however, I'm fat. For my fault. I got distracted. I'm not gonna lie, I got distracted. But however, one of the things that would also happen last night is after I put up the video live talking about my interaction with Justin, multiple people was inboxing the May 30th Alliance talking about their negative interactions with Justin Fern, which was something that I told him when he was engaging in this fucking these fucking threats that he was making. I told him, I'm like, you in the business of image and branding, like motherfuckers hate urban equity. Like, that's not no secret. Motherfuckers hate urban equity. Motherfuckers hate Justin. However much you may think motherfuckers don't like me or hate me, trust me, it's 100 times more for him. This whole city, every time a building burns down, the city say urban equity burnt the building down. People say urban equity use all type of nefarious ways to get a hold of the properties that they have. And so I would think somebody who lives in the glass house would know he shouldn't be out in this motherfucker throwing stones. But again, that's what happens when you privilege insulates you from understanding that you even live in a glass house. And so he would leave. We put chalk all in the front of the old Chase bank. People would be inboxing me all day about their negative interactions with Justin Fern. And I think I should also point out that before this interaction with me and Justin even took place, somebody had inboxed me, and I want to make sure I get the exact, I'm not going to say the person's name, but I do want to say exactly what was on this message. Somebody would inbox me about a month and a half ago talking about a negative interaction that they had with Justin Fern. And I get we at the May 30th Alliance and myself, Leslie Roth, get a lot of inboxes about people in this city. I get inboxes about things Tom's done. A lot of people inbox me and talk about Tom's cocaine use, prior and present. And again, one of the things is, a lot of people inbox when Dominic McNeese shot Tyrus Jones. Dominic McNeese's name was inboxed to us. There have been people that have inboxed me about some of the actions of older people. And what I do personally is I hold on to those things. Those are receipts for me. I hold on to those receipts because sometimes you can't substantiate that these things are even true. So it may not be a point of putting those things out into the universe without having some type of substantive basis for some of these allegations. But also sometimes you just got to hold on to things. You got to play your cards at the right time. And so I could have put this out when this person inboxed me this on June 28th, 2021 at 9 o'clock a.m. I could have just made a post and said something about it then, but the timing wouldn't have been quite as good as the timing is now. So let me read to you this message that was sent to me by a black man on June 28th, 2021, 9 o'clock a.m. Just a heads up, Justin from Urban Equity called me a fucking nigger because I was in his parking spot. So be careful if you guys park around the corner at the Noah's Ark Animal Rescue. I said back to this person, damn, that's nuts. When was this? In hindsight, I feel like I probably could have had a better response to that. But a lot of things were going on at the time. And then this person responded back this morning around 8 o'clock a.m. I believe that happened 100%. I believe that, you know, he wanted to drop the N-bomb back with me and Antar, but he just probably felt like that wasn't the proper time to use it. But he felt perfectly. Nothing about my interactions with Justin makes me think that he ain't out here calling motherfuckers niggers. So I 100% believe that this is a true statement. But on top of that, somebody else messaged, another one of the messages that I got last night. Remember, this was a message from months ago. Another one of the messages I got last night was somebody else telling me how they had a negative interaction with Justin Fern over a parking spot. And so that made me 100% believe that he called this black man a nigger over the parking spot because of the fact that these two people were not talking to each other, interacting with each other. They sent me these messages at totally separate times, and the description of their interaction both involved parking spots. And I don't think it's anything that screams privilege more than being upset about not being able to have a parking spot, especially in Rockford. It's not like in Chicago or New York or LA where, parking is this battle and you paying a bunch of money and, motherfuckers can go across the street and park in Rockford and have a spot. So the fact that he out here using racial slurs over parking spots tells you a lot about, again, the character of this individual. But so that would be one of the things that I would write heavily in the messaging is Justin Fern calls black people nigger. It was a few other things that was written too. But so anyways, the night would pass, morning would come, and bright and early around 7 o'clock, 7:30. I'm sure he got a lot of pictures of what was out in front of his old Chase Bank building. Fuck your property. We wrote that a couple of times too. I thought that was a poignant one. Black man would come, Urban Equities t-shirt on, washing away the chalk. He washed away all the chalk. After he would wash away all the chalk, there would be a member of the May 30th Alliance that was also out here along with me. That lady was out here, and that lady would say to him after he washed away all the chalk to the black man, your boss is racist, right? You know he a racist. And he said he got a black father-in-law. And I guess that we getting real. This saying that you connected to a black person is starting to get to a very crazy place. You got to at least go with children. Like if you ain't got if you at least say they got black children. I think a black father-in-law, I don't know how that qualifies you at all to not be racist. I think most people hate their father-in-laws. So it need to be a family member like your child or like his wife or something like that. And I don't think that none of those things mean that you're not racist, but at least it's a better argument if the black person came out of your loins, or if you are conceiving with the black person and having to have physical touch and romantic relationship, even though I think still that can get into fetishization and it's all types of places that can get into as well. But it's at least a better argument than the argument that your father-in-law is black. And from my understanding, this father-in-law that is black is not a black father-in-law in the sense that he has a black wife. It's a black father-in-law in the sense that his wife's mother conceived children with the white man, broke up or got divorced from the white man, and then married a black man. Again, which gets us to a place where this is real. This is on the periphery of connection to black people. I think you almost are in a better place saying his best friend is black than you are saying that his father-in-law is black. But anyways, that was his cop out. He has a black father-in-law. And so what would I would say back to him once this conversation had been started, I would say to him, that he really said that, right? He really called a black man a nigger over a parking spot. I was like, he really said that, right? He really called a black man a nigger over a parking spot. And the black man would take a pause, take a little second, take a beat, think, probably like a half a second, like 0.05 milliseconds or whatever. And then he would say back to us, well, he ain't ever called me no nigger. And then he'd get in his car and he would leave. And he would laugh as he was saying it, and me and that lady, both of us being black, would also laugh with him saying it. And there is some type of tragic comedy within this man saying this, because there are plenty of black people who have to compromise with themselves that their white employer or their white father-in-law or their white brother-in-law or their white best friend or their white cousin is not a racist or does not buy into racist ideology, because they're not calling them niggers, they calling other black people niggers. Similar to how Clyde was when Clyde came down here and tore down the memorials, and I was filming him and he said, typical nigger, as we walking by, and then he gets by the security guard and he said, the black security guard, just as black as me, and he says to him, hey, how you doing? And I say to him, well, you're not gonna call him a nigger? He not a nigger? And then Clyde would say, no, he's not a nigger. And again, that is a tragic comedy that is experienced by people in this community and people in this society. And so he would laugh, get in his car, leave or whatever. And I laugh too, and there's some type of tragic comedy within there. But it also points to the type of mind state that exists within the black people in our community, that this man didn't even feel offended or didn't even blink or flinch at the fact that this chalk was saying that his boss was using racial slurs and racial epithets. He didn't even blink or anything when it was said to him that he was racist. He had a rebuttal for it, a bad rebuttal. And then when he was told, broached again with the fact that this man used a racial slur to speak to a younger black man, he would have a rebuttal for it. And so that is part of what changing the consciousness is making sure that whoever his child is and whoever his grandchildren are, that they won't be willing to work for a man who calls people niggers over parking spots, that they won't be willing to work for a man who, obviously this must be a line he done used, that his father-in-law is black, or else I don't know how motherfuckers know this shit. You want to get to a place where this is generations after us don't accept that for equity or for equality, but that can't happen without challenging the mind state and the ideologies and the philosophies of the people that are currently in these positions. So that would be the extent of our interactions with Justin and Urban Equity, besides some of the messages that have been inboxed. That before I go and repeating some of these inboxes, I need to get some more substantiated information about them. And also, like I said, politics is war without bloodshed. War is politics with bloodshed. And we have to continue to be here in this area. And I do not doubt the idea that this man, Justin, is much of a narcissist, that stepping on his toes too much will lead to unnecessary fallout. So tonight, we'll leave the Chase Bank sidewalk empty. But the Chase Bank sidewalk is completely up for grabs. There's been times where that was not up for grabs. Personally, again, this is a personal thing. It's not something I'm saying to other people. But it's sort of been we've all been in stepping in line with each other. And so, fuck the outlets. Somebody cares about the outlets. That he can have his electricity. But my main thing was not about that. That's one of the last things I want to point out before we switch subjects is that I was not upset about the outlet. I was not upset about the power. I wasn't even upset about him saying that he wants an apology from Terry. The dude's a fucking. I think he was on coke last night. I think he was either on coke or some pills or some shit. He didn't seem like he was drunk, but he seemed like he wasn't in his right mind. But again, he also could have just been high on narcissism, which is just as potent as cocaine can be sometimes. And so one of the things I want to point out is that it was about the threats that he came down here doing. The threatening to weaponize the police, the threatening to call the police, the threatening to basically have people arrested for criminal trespass and for theft. With the understanding, and this is something that another thing we have to get to. In 2021, white people, especially white people of means and of privilege, understand that by threatening to call the police, that it could lead to people being beat up and assaulted by the police, that it could lead to people being killed by the police. And so the same way that someone else may threaten to shoot somebody or beat somebody up or stab somebody, privileged white people specifically, and I'm sure it's a couple of brainwashed Uncle Toms that's out here doing the same thing, use this threat of calling the police the same way somebody else would use the threat of punching you or a threat of shooting you. And that is a threat that I will not allow to be done to me without a reaction, no matter who it is that's doing it. It's one of the reasons we've continued to be so adamant in our struggle against the city of Rockford government, because they have opted into the weaponizing of the police on a regular basis. And the same thing with City Market. City Market has opted into the weaponizing of police on a regular basis, and both the racist people that work at City Market and the racist people in the city of Rockford government have put in multiple lives at risk when they have done these things, and there has to be reactions to this. And you have to build the muscle memory of reactions. You have to get people to a place where they feel as if there will be some type of repercussion or reaction for them weaponizing the police. And so that's what that was about. I'll post the pictures of the chalk that was in front of the Chase Bank tonight on May 30th Alliance as well. Okay, so that gets us Justin Fern and Urban Equity both being spoken about. Let's talk on this last topic here, and then I'm going to end this live for a second and do a few other things, and then I'll probably come back with a Rockford reading a little bit later tonight. But I want to speak about the Rockford Police Department officer that was arrested yesterday I don't know if he was actually arrested yesterday, but the story came out yesterday about him being charged with a domestic battery. Give me 1 second to find this. 9/14/21, and I do not know this man's. I'm not gonna pronounce this man's name right. I already know. But hold on 1 second. Oh yeah, they arrested Chris too. Free Chris. Free Chris. He be stealing our shit down here. He stole my brownies the other day. I ain't pressing charges for that though. Free Chris. Free Chris up out that jam. C. Let's see. All right. Rockford Police Department officer. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna read the. Actually, RR Star put out an article on it, and usually RR Star articles are more comprehensive. So let's read the. Let's see what the RR Star comprehensive article is like. Damn, what the hell? Okay. All right. Rockford police officer charged with battery placed on administrative leave. Okay, I'm going to butcher this man's name, but he's a police officer, so it's all right. Yeah, still getting paid. And he still has health insurance and dental insurance. And anybody on his insurance still has their insurance. Sisampao Singh Mao Thong, a Rockford police officer, is scheduled to appear in court Thursday on a charge of domestic battery. We'll be there. May 30th Alliance will have somebody there. We, the royal we. According to Winnebago County records, the incident occurred about 1 a.m. on July 11th. It's a long-ass investigation. Singh Mao Thong, 43, of Rockton, has pleaded not guilty and remains on administrative leave. Of Rockton. That'd be the other thing about this. All these cops, none of these cops live in Rockford. 80% of the Rockford Police Department lives outside of Rockford. Domestic battery is a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a fine of up to $2,500. In 2019, Singh Mao Thong was awarded by the police department the Medal of Life-Saving for performing CPR on a driver found slumped over in a vehicle. What the fuck that got to do with him beating up his wife or his girlfriend? Hell no. They ended the story like this. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if they was forced. Damn, Chris. I know they forced you to end the story like this. Nah, I'm just playing. I don't know that they forced him to end the story like this. Damn, Chris. I wish you ain't end the story this way, but I'm sure there's some type of maybe you gotta like seem like you neutral or something like that. I'm sure you had a reason that is beyond my understanding of journalism to end the story this way. But I must say I don't like that it was ended this way. So that is something that I wanted to speak on. It's not a lot of information about this case, but what I want to point out is this. Joshua Sims, also a Rockford Police Department officer, is currently on paid administrative leave for what? Domestic battery. It is estimated that up to 40% of police officers abuse their wives, physically abuse their spouses, or engage in domestic battery. Up to 40%, over 40%, at least 40%. I'm butchering that stat, but that is what the stat is. And I think it's important to point out that even though this man and Joshua Sims, I want to pronounce his name. I gotta figure out how to pronounce his name right. I don't remember how long he's been on the police force. He's been on the police for Joshua Sims or for a year. Yeah, he's been on administrative leave for a year. They keep them on that administrative leave. That police union is working hard. I don't know what union works harder, the police union or the NFLPA, the NFL union. Both of them work real hard at keeping people who beat up women employed. And so another thing that I want to point out is that there are only all the officers who have been arrested for and brought up on charges in the past 3 years, 2 to 3 years from what I have seen, are all people of color. Joshua Sims is a person of color. The dancing cop, what's the dancing cop name? I can't remember the dancing cop name. Y'all know who the dancing cop is. Dancing cop was black. They got a Mexican cop right now that's the dancing cop has sexual assault charges. They got a Mexican cop right now that's been on the force for 20-something years, that's been on administrative leave for a couple of years for sexual assault. And then we got Sing Maung Thong on administrative leave for domestic battery. So these are all cops of color. It's hard for me to think that it ain't no white cops out here beating their spouses or committing domestic battery. You got a guy that's finna walk by you real quick. And so I think that was one of the things, because it's not that much information out, to me, the most important reason to bring up Sing Maung Thong being brought up on charges is the fact that now we have an Asian American who has been brought up on charges, not for, and again, none of these cops are being brought up on charges for murdering people or shooting people, but they are being brought up on charges for the domestic battery, which is still, I'm not saying that there should not be any kind of penalty for these men engaging in domestic battery, but I also believe that, and again, this is where you get into these convoluted conversations, because, and I'm not going to have this conversation right now because it's much too complex to have, but even with police officers simply arresting them and putting them in jail or these guys not going to fucking jail, or they've been in jail, but they're not going to fucking prison. But even if you were arresting Derek Chauvin and putting Derek Chauvin in prison for killing George Floyd, does not get to the root of the reason that George Floyd was murdered. It allows for a scapegoat, and it allows for cover for these institutions to say, hey, look, we arrested him. We arrested this person, so it's obvious that we enforce the law equally. Meanwhile, the cops who beat the shit out of Denzel Duvant getting pay raises and getting awards. The cops who shot Tyrus Jones and shot Jose Gonzalez Jr. getting pay raises and getting awards. And so this is a lot of smoke and mirrors, but it is still important to point out and highlight the hypocrisies that happen even within these smoke and mirrors. And so that is the extent of things that I believe need to be touched on for the last basically 48 hours. It's been about 48 hours since I had done a live. I'm trying to get back into the groove of doing multiple lives on a daily basis. I've been trying to get the YouTube updated with all the live from Occupy City Hall, so that way I can start making clips and start clipping up some of the live from Occupy City Halls. I know people don't have the time to sit through an hour and a half all the time of the live, so we're trying to find more mediums to get them to people. And I'm trying to also get us in the groove of using Instagram regularly and putting podcasts out regularly. We got some new pamphlets coming here soon as well, and we are coming up on a year since the occupation of City Hall began. We will have an event for that, and we're also coming up on a year since Tyrus Jones was shot by Officer Dominic McNeese, and the plan is to have some sort of an event for that as well. We're also coming up on the anniversary of Little Mike Sago being shot and murdered by off-duty Winnebago County Sheriff Deputy Jeff Pobjecki as well. So there are some very important dates that are coming up that we will try to make sure we are keeping people informed about any events that we are doing. It is also, as people know, we are getting to the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall, and the weather is beginning to change. And yes, the plan at one point in time was very much centered around the idea of being, well, okay, I should rephrase that. My thoughts and my sentiments personally, which as in some manner was also some of the organization's sentiments, were that maybe doing a year here would get the point across, and we do a year, we pack up, and we begin to do something else from there. But one of the things that was always sort of the elephant in the room with that idea was that Tyrus Jones was shot on October 2nd, 2020, and he survived his shooting. So what happens if somebody else is shot? If we were going to do a year for Tyrus Jones, do we not do a year for them? What happens if someone is killed? If we're going to do a year for someone being shot and surviving, what do you do for somebody being killed? And that elephant in the room would awaken and become a bull in a china shop, and Denzel Duvant would have his ass beat mercilessly. One of the officers involved would be the officer that shot Tyrus Jones, and so the question becomes, what do you do for Denzel Duvant, who was beat that way? Faustin Guaitigo would be murdered by a Winnebago County Sheriff deputy. And so again, the elephant that was once in the room would become a bull in a china shop, and the question would become, what do you do for Faustin Guaitigo, who have been murdered by the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies? If you stay a year for Tyrus Jones being shot and surviving, how long do you stay for Faustin Guaitigo being murdered? If you stay 6 months or another 8 months for Denzel Duvant being beat and assaulted, how long do you stay for, again, Faustin Guaitigo being murdered? And then again, that elephant in the room would return to form of a bull in a china shop when Jose Gonzalez Jr. will be shot 24 hours after Faustin Guaitigo was murdered. And so if you come out, if you're going to do all these things for Tyrus and for Denzel and for Faustin, what do you do for Jose Gonzalez Jr.? And then again, when Raymond Jackson would be shot, when Raymond Jackson would die after a high-speed pursuit, the same question comes into play. What do you do for this person, for this individual? And so I believe the first thing, one of the first things that we did is we spoke on these issues. We articulated these issues. We tried to raise awareness and into the consciousness of the society when it comes to these issues. But one of the other things that we have also agreed upon with a lot of this comes down to the things we've experienced while being outside of City Hall and the things that we've experienced with the city market protest continuing. And that is that we must continue the occupation at City Hall because of how many issues it can shine light on, because of how the platform has been built. One of the things that happened recently is the shooting that took place outside of the Justice Center. And whatever different people's opinions or beliefs on the motives or the intentions of the shootings, regardless of the fact, the point is that what we do with the Occupy City Hall and with protesting and with the May 30th Alliance is something that always has a specter of violence hanging over it. And that specter of violence was visited upon us outside of the Justice Center. Whether that specter of violence is there because we are outside all the time and there are dangers with being outside because of the society we live in, or whether that specter of violence comes from our ideological beliefs and there have historically been dangers for people holding these type of ideological beliefs, the fact remains that violence is something that hangs over the head of all of this. And what would it say if a month after the violence struck down in that type of a manner, we went back inside? There would be people who would think that they were simultaneous acts because we live in a city where these mediums have not been built well enough for people to be properly educated and properly informed. Somebody just was talking to me about the shooting about 25, 30 minutes ago, and they couldn't believe that it happened 3 weeks ago. And so we are at a place where I believe personally, the occupation must continue, where other members of the May 30th Alliance also believe that the occupation must continue, where community members believe that the occupation must continue. And if I'm being honest with myself and being honest with you all that are viewing this or listening to this, I don't believe that a year is long enough for what it is that we are trying to cultivate and create. There's not very many things in life that if you do for a year, you can have a great change come from them. You win the best basketball player for 1 year is not going to be the person that is going to change basketball forever. The person who's the best employee at you work at a new job and you're the best employee for 1 year, that's not going to guarantee that you have some type of raise or you rise up in the ranks. There is something to be said about consistency. There's something to be said about persistence. And there's something to be said about having the courage of your convictions. And there's also something to be said, unfortunately, as unfortunate as this may be, there is also something to be said about the struggle being waged in the winter, in the weather. One of the things that I told people last year, and that still rings true this year, is that people are not impressed when they drive by City Hall in the summertime and it's 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 3 people, 2 people, 1 person, whatever, outside of City Hall. They would be more impressed in the summertime when they drove by if it was 50 people down here, 60 people down here, and that would speak more towards, for a majority of people, that would speak more towards the validity of what it is that we were doing, or that would get people to give more credence to what it is that we were doing, for lack of a better term. However, because of how cold it gets out here. What's up, brother? Because of how cold it gets out here, because of how the weather is out here, because of, and when I say out here, I mean in Rockford, Illinois, in this region of the country. When people come out here and they see those small numbers while it's snowing or while it's below frigid temperature, that gets the same point across that 50 people or 60, 70, 80 people in the summer gets across. When people would see us outside of the city hall, when people see us outside of city hall during December and during November and January, February of last year, that would get people to stop who wouldn't have usually stopped. People to try to find ways to contribute who would not have usually found ways to contribute. And I believe that avenue was such a that avenue was such useful and such resourceful that I don't believe that it would be smart for us to break from that. And so I think that there is more for us to be able to gain in the future by continuing to be outside of City Hall during the winter time than it is from us packing up and trying to recalibrate while we're in the winter time. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that we point out is just that the occupation is going to continue to go on, that we are going to continue with the demonstrations. With the demonstration, this has become an ongoing, basically a self-fulfilling demonstration in some sort of a sense. For sure, be safe out there. And so, again, the occupation will continue. We still have people who have trials coming up. Every trial that we have, we will go outside the Winnebago County Justice Center, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, and we will have our lives from out there, and we will document these trials taking place. And again, one of the other things is that we have learned that when you least suspect it is when these acts of police terrorism will strike and will manifest themselves. And so I 100% believe if we were to pack up on October 2nd or October 3rd and go back inside of the house, by the time Halloween got around, somebody would be laying in the streets with bullets in them from the Rockford Police Department, or somebody would be dead inside the Winnebago County Jail, or somebody would be killed by the Metros, or somebody would get beat up by the scope team on the west side of Rockford. And so instead of packing ourselves up, going inside the house and waiting for these things to manifest themselves again and then having to start a new streak or having to start these things all over again, I believe that it is our duty and our responsibility to continue on without any breaks, to continue on with this struggle and to continue this past a year. So on that note, I'm going to end this live. I believe I've touched on all the things that definitively needed to be touched on, and I will be back. It's 9:13, it's pretty early still. I'll be back with a Rockford reading a little bit later on tonight. All right, let's end this the way we end the lives. Rest in power to Demetrius Bennett. Rest in power to Logan Bell. Rest in power to Kerry Blake. Rest in power to Geno Washington. Rest in power to Mark Barmore. Rest in power to Jovan Fresco. Rest in power to Philip Johnson. Rest in power to Jasper Banks. Rest in power to Suzette Babler. Rest in power to Faustin Guetigo. Rest in power to Shannon Graves. Rest in power to Little Mike Sago. Rest in power to Mikey Guzman. Rest in power to Joseph McCormick. Rest in power to Eddie Patterson. We outside.